I'm Blesson Varghese. I am a logo and brand identity designer. I'm from India, and I've been freelancing for the past 7 years or so.
As ever, how about we get started hearing how you got started being freelance?
The way I started was I never had any sort of design background whatsoever, even any sort of design exposure, to be very honest, because the place where I belong, we don't have the standards of modern design that we have today. So the place where I live, it's not a city, it's not a metropolitan city or something. It's way more backwards when it comes to literacy, way more backwards when it comes to modernization or westernization and all those terms. So my exposure to design has just always been the typical traditional designs that are present in India, and we're talking about handmade billboards with no hierarchy or no sense of design, what we say right now in modern design whatsoever. So I never had any sort of exposure to design, but I was always intrigued by it. I was always interested in it. And when I figured out there's something called Photoshop in your Windows PC, you can get a software called Photoshop, and you can just, literally just design stuff and make things. I was very intrigued by that. And I was like, this is something that's interesting to me. So for my friend circle, our ambitions were we want to, complete school, we want to pass school, and then we want to get into college, get a degree, then get a 9-to-5 job, provide for a family, and then have a family, of course, and then provide for them, and then just live your life happily ever after. That was what our ambitions were. And if it's too ambitious, we would just go for a big package salary and a good house, or maybe a good car. So that has been our ambitions since we started school, or we were in school. So when I found out Photoshop, it was very new to me. I didn't have anyone to look up to where I could say that I want to be like him because he's a designer, he's an artist. So everything was very new to me, and I just started out randomly, filling out on Photoshop and trying to figure out things and just having those crazy texts, those word art text designs style, and then those posters, and then just exploring design, just exploring the world of digital art and digital design, things like that. And slowly I figured out YouTube. We are talking about 2014 or 15, I guess 13 or 14, somewhere around that. I figured out YouTube. I figured out that there are people those who do YouTube tutorials where you can learn design from. I learned a lot of things. I learned Photoshop from YouTube, and I figured out how to make posters, good posters, and I figured out how to make flyers or invitation cards. And I just started doing them for my family, for our church functions or family functions or any sort of events that we had. And that's how that was my entry into design. And later on, just cutting the story into short, later on I went to college. Just as everybody else does, I went into campus placements for a job, and I got placed in one company, but then again, I failed in one subject thereafter, which canceled the whole job opportunity that I had. And that's where, between that break, I started exploring more on logo design and figured out that there's something called logo design, right? There are designers who design logos specifically for brands, and they earn from it. So I started an Instagram page, and I said, let's just try it out. And I'm very thankful that I had supportive parents, to be very honest, because this might not make sense to people those who are in the West, because when we say supportive parents, it has to be in the context of Indian culture and Indian society, where artists or designers or creative people are not considered as, creative industry is not considered as something that you can build a career on. It's seen more of as a hobby, seen more of as something that you really like, but you do other things and then you do this on side. So, but my parents have been supportive, and they supported me since day one till now. And, that's how I started Instagram, and started the page. Few months in, got few clients. I was on top of the moon. I was like, wow, this is really working. And I think 2 or 3 projects in, I decided to make it full time. just go all in.
Wow. So when you started the Instagram page to just share your experiments, I guess, was that while you were still at college then?
I had finished college back then.
Right.
I had finished college. I was waiting for my next step. What should I do? That's between that break is when I started Instagram. And I decided that the next step would wait for a while because I'm really liking this. And I want to continue doing this. And my parents were obviously supportive, but they were a little, suspicious on like whether or not this will work out because they haven't heard of anybody in our culture or in our friend circle or in our families who has done this and has been doing this for a while and has a good career. So it was a bit, troublesome for them to accept it that I'll be doing it full time. And they were like, so you're not going to do any job. You're not going to, apply for jobs. Maybe in the design field, you can do that. There might be something. I was like, no, I want to do it full time because that's when I, listened to a lot of these freelancers on YouTube, and they were like, we do it full time. This is our full time job. That's what freelancers are. All that stuff. And I was like, yeah, let's do it. Let's try it out.
And so the first, other than friends and family, when you first got hold your hands on Photoshop, your first clients contacted you via Instagram.
Yes.
How did that go? Like, did you know what you were doing? And I'm imagining your parents going, I'm sorry, what? They're going to give you money over the internet to do what?
Yes. That's a very, very great question because that brings me into the point of, social media and Instagram and how did things work out for me. So, truth being told, I never knew any sort of these terms, so-called design terms, or let's say, freelancing or design terms like geometry or typography, hierarchy, and all that stuff, right? Everything was self-taught. So I was just learning things and then doing them what I've learned. I was just following along with people those where I was learning from, right? And I figured out there are a few designers, and I have to name him out. His name, Connor Fowler. He was the one who went by the name C Fowler Design on Instagram. He was the one that I first looked up to, and I was like, he's a logo designer. He's a killer logo designer. He designs great logos, minimalistic ones, and I really want to, do something like him. Turns out that we became friends later on the journey. But I saw him and how he was doing things. He was writing captions like, this is the type of logo design that I'm doing. Reach out to me on DMs if you would like to get some work done, right? I was just copying that and I was just doing the same thing. I would design my own things and I would just write them on captions. So-and-so concept logo design. Reach out on DMs if you'd like to get yours. And few months in, I got one client inquiry from a music artist. He wanted a logo for his album, for his upcoming album. And I was like, yeah, let's do it. I did say let's do it, but I didn't know like what's the process like, right? Like, what do you do? Like, do you ask questions to them? Do you ask like for money upfront, or do you whatever? Like, what's the process like? I figured out. I just googled that, right? What's the process of logo design? So let's say you have a logo design client. How do you do that? And I saw that people do something called contract, and I was like, do I have to hire a lawyer for this? I figured out no, you probably just for a few things, just for if it's just a one-on-one project, you might just need a written agreement. But I didn't do that, obviously, because I was a little afraid of if I did something wrong and I lost the client, if that makes sense, right? So I was like, I then reached out to the client and I asked, what is it that you would like to get designed? Like, what's your thought about it? What's your idea about it? He shared some of his ideas. He shared some of his sketches. And I was like, all right, I would go for a 50% upfront because that's what I read. When I searched on Google, I read that you have to have 50% upfront. He said, I'm not going to give it to you unless you give me a sketch or a rough version of the logo. I was like, he's my first client. I don't want to lose him. Let's do it. I said, all right, let's go for it. I designed the first version. I still remember I sat day and night designing the rough version of the logo because I really, really wanted to do it. And probably in a day or two, I sent him the first rough sketch. And he was like, yeah, I like it, but I would like to have few modifications here and there. I did that. He asked for another few revisions. I did that. And I told him, let's lock it. So he said, all right, yeah, I'll just transfer the money. Please send me your bank details. So I thought it would be as easy as just sending your bank details to the client. He will be sending that money to me, and that's all how it works out, right? But turns out, because I am in India, my client was in America. It's not that easy for bank transfer to work, direct bank transfers to work. I sent him my bank details. He sent me through a wire transfer, and he sent me the screenshot of the payment successful thing. And I was like, all right, let's go for it. I sent him the final design files, and I thanked him for the opportunity, and I said if I can get a testimonial, because that's what I read on Google, that you should get testimonials from your clients, right? So I was like, if I can get a testimonial from you. He said, all right, I'll give. He just wrote a 2-line testimonial, and I got the testimonial. 3 days passed by, I still don't get the money in my account. 4 days passed by, I still don't get it, and I'm freaking out. So I'm like, whether he sent the money or is he just fooling around? I reached out to him and I said, it's been 4 days. Can you please check it with your bank? He checked it with his bank, and he said, it's in your account, but it has not yet transferred because of the international bank transfer thing, right? I went to my bank account. I hope I'm not stretching it too much, right?
It's great. Go.
Cool. Yeah. I reached out to my bank account, and I told them, hey, can you just check if I have any sort of international bank transfer? So he's like, the bank guy, he's like, you are Blesson, right? Yeah. Yes, we do have an international bank transfer. We wanted to reach out to you because this is not something that happens in our region. So you have to know that none of the people around in our area had international bank transfers on their bank. Everything was done domestic. So they were a little skeptical about it. So I had to fill out a form. I had to reach out to the branch manager, to the relationship manager, everybody. And they gave me a form. And I had to declare what this fund was for. Where did you get it from? What's the name of the sender? What's the address of the sender? And if they have a company, what's the name of the company? What's the address of the company? So it was a very, very tedious process. And I filled everything, and they told me that it will be reflected in your bank account for probably in the next 2 or 3 business days, but they will charge a fee because of the international transfer. I was like, all right. 3 days pass by, and I get the message that the amount is credited into my bank account, but the fees was almost half of what I got. So imagine charging $80 for a logo. Imagine charging $80 for a logo, and then you get a message that you have almost $38 in fees for the international transfer. And so I had mixed feelings. First was, I was happy that I got my first client and first payment. The second was, which was the afterthought. Is it the process that I have to go every time? Like every time to have to go to the bank, every time I have to give them this amount of cut? And I was clueless, but my parents were happy because, you got your first client at least. So they knew this is legit, right? So that has been my first client story.
Whoa. I mean, that might have been enough to put some people off. Did you then Google, how do I not get stung quite so much? Google seems to be your friend up to this point. What did happen next? How did you develop it from that first client experience?
My first client experience, so as I mentioned, that was horrible. And I was like, this is not how it's going to work out. It won't work out if I have to do it this way. I then sat down and researched hard on what is it that people use. how do people get international payments? And then I figured out, all of these bank transfer things, they don't work out because you have to have international transfers in. And in India, we have a lot of these complex banking systems, which doesn't allow international transfers easily. So I then figured out PayPal. So I was like, yes, PayPal works in India too. PayPal works in America too, or European countries and most of the countries. So how does that work out? I figured out PayPal works out in a way where you can connect your bank account. They do all the middleman stuff and they charge a fee for it, not as ridiculous as bank transfers. And I reached out to a few more Indian designers that I found on Instagram. And I asked them, how do they do things? Back in 2017 and 2018, we didn't have too many options like TransferWise or like Stripe or all those things. PayPal was the main thing in the market. So everybody said, use just PayPal. I just got on PayPal, registered my account, and for the next client, I used PayPal, and it was just, things were just much easier.
So is that how did your next clients find you? Was it continuing to share your process and your work on Instagram? Did you build a website? Like, what did you do?
Yeah, so Instagram was where I started out, and I kept going with Instagram for a long time, and that's how I got clients, because I kept posting work, I kept getting inquiries, and I figured out like this is the way probably everybody might be doing. So I just kept on going. Later on in the journey, I figured out that you can also have a website. And I was like, wow, that's a great idea. But how do you get the website, right? Then I figured out Behance and Dribble later on. But Instagram was my main source for probably 2 or 3 years in my journey. And back in those days, Instagram was very good for getting design clients. It was great for showcasing your work, and your potential clients might be on Instagram looking for people that they can work with. So it just worked out for me. I used Instagram for probably 2 or 3 years of my first 2 or 3 years of my journey, and it just worked out. I don't know what I did differently. If somebody asked me, I don't know. I just kept posting work. I just showed up every day, and just clients just reached out. So there's a funny story. I never have ever cold emailed or cold DM'd anybody. So that was a surprise for me when I learned about cold emails or cold reach out, right? I was like, wow, that's also something that you can do. But I never had done that, so I didn't have experience on that.
No. Well, much better when people want to come to you, asking you to work for them.
Yeah, exactly. I was grateful and fortunate that my clients found out about me on social media, and they reached out to me and not the other way around.
And most of your clients, are they outside of India?
Yeah. Like even now, 95% of my clients are outside of India because, there's also a story attached to that. Because we don't have that sort of mindset shift yet in the Indian industry, in the country or in the society where they value design as much it should be. It's still considered just as an business expenditure that we have to get something because we have to use socials. So get it done as low cost as possible. Doesn't matter where we get from. Doesn't matter if the designer has copied the design from somewhere. So that culture is still developing. So we are not there yet. But back in 2017 and 2018, like it had no market whatsoever for designers. I'm talking about, this would be very surprising for people, but I'm talking about $10, $20 designs. Like everything was just under $50. Everything was just under $50. So that has been the culture or the mindset around design. So I focused on developing or posting work that attracted international clients, that was of the international standard, so that when people see my work, they would be like, yeah, this is something that we would, it would help us. So I just did that.
how have you obviously were learning. Is that something you still do? Like, do you still make time in your day, in your week or whatever to learn?
Absolutely. I think so. I keep sharing this with my designer community and even on my social media. Like always, being a self-taught designer, this is something that is a big advantage for me, because I feel like I don't know much and I still want to learn as much as possible, right? Even to this day, I still feel that I don't know a lot of the basics. I don't know a lot of the fundamentals of how things work. I don't know how things would work out in the future because I don't have the industry insights or things like that. So I still keep learning every day. And I think that is something that has helped me to survive all this while, to get to where I am, because I had the heart of learning. But I would also say this: few years in, probably around year 4 or 5 of my career, I had that bit of thought in my mind that yeah, I do know a bit. When I started getting good quality clients, when I started getting high paying clients, high ticket clients, which was not at all close to what my friends were earning or my colleagues were earning, that arrogance hit me a bit, that yeah, I do know something, right? But soon enough life teaches you in its own ways. And I was then grounded again, figuring out things, that I met people, I learned from people, and I have the opportunity to have connections with designers, those who are better than me. And when I looked at them and when I had the experience of talking to them, I figured out that no, I'm not there yet.
So have you had, I guess, almost like mentors, like actual or co-mentors, like people who, or communities that you've been part of who have helped you?
Yeah. So, like when I started out, as I mentioned, I looked up to a lot of people on Instagram because that's how I learned. I literally tracked everything that they did, and I just copied that, to be very honest. I just did what they did and I followed their path. So I think for me, mentors have been silent mentors. Most of the time, they have been, they don't know yet that they are my mentors. And in some or the other way, I also had mentors, those who just started out. And I looked at their designs, I looked at the way they posted their work, they shared their work on social media, or maybe their authenticity or their transparency on social media. I learned some from those who started out, and I was like, I don't have that. I should learn that from them. So, but I did also join few communities here and there, where I, learned from few people here and there. But I haven't had any sort of, mentor that I would like to call out and say that he's my mentor, she's my mentor. Yet.
Yeah. So, at what point, because I know today, like, you have a company name, like obviously you're Blesson, but your company name is?
Bless Creatics.
When did that come into the frame?
Yeah, I would love to share that story because it's a fun one. So, can you guess what Creatics means?
I presumed it was like a creative, athletic type thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
no,
it means, so it'll be very straightforward to you when you hear this. All right, it's 2 words combined: creative graphics. That's it.
Oh, graphics. It's just because I'm a natural athlete, Blesson, that I went to athletics.
Yeah. So when I started out on
quite so hard
Instagram,
as you looked at me.
When I started out, my Instagram page, it was called Bless Creatics from the day one.
Oh, wow.
Yes. That's funny because I mentioned Connor Fowler. He's a designer from the UK. That's who I actually looked up to when I started out. And he goes by the name C. Fowler Design. So I was like, he's not using his own name. He has a little bit of, C. Fowler Design added to it, something added to it after his name. So I was like, my name is Bless, and I'm fortunate enough to have a name that sounds cool, right? So I was like, let's shorten it up, add Bless, and then just add creative graphics because I thought that I would be doing that for the rest of my life. Graphics, creative, and that just sounded cool. Bless Creatics, and I just went with it. And funny enough, last year I registered my company as a private limited company, so it's a legit thing now.
Brilliant. I love that it came from an Instagram handle.
Yep.
So with that in mind though, like were you obviously coming across as a business, coming across as a professional, were you sharing much of your personality, of your personal life or anything like that on Instagram, or was it just my work?
So for a very long time, it was just my handle that said Bless Creatics, but everything on my socials was me, my story, my work, and my journey. So it wasn't like I was pretending to be an agency or a studio where people, you know that meme, right? Where we say we are just one designer in the team and we just say we are a great agency. We, develop things and things like that. I always used to use I, and I always told my clients it's just me, but it's just that I go by the stage name kind of thing where it's called Bless Creatics. So all this while it was just, and I think the reason why I could get here where I am was because of the personal brand that I had on my social media account. Absolutely. That was the only reason that I had. I used to share my journey, I used to share my struggles, and I used to share my thoughts on how things would work and how things might not work, along with the design work.
Right. And how did that evolve? Because I know at some point you started a podcast.
Yep.
Did that come out of the back of what you were doing on Instagram?
So the podcast, the reason why I started the podcast was to learn from the best in the design industry, right? It was never to build a following. It was never to build any sort of personal brand strategy. Like it was a marketing thing for me. I wasn't doing it on those terms. I just wanted to learn from the best in design industry. And I thought the best way to learn from them to not subscribe to their mentorship thing but get them on board and learn from their insights was to just have them as guests on podcast. So every podcast guest that I have on my podcast are people that I wanted to learn from. And I figured out later in my design journey, I figured out that I like talking to people. Like I like to communicate, although I might not be as extrovert as everybody thinks, but I just like to communicate, right? And I've got that a little bit of where I am a good communicator kind of thing. So I figured out that works well for me, right? So I figured out the best way would be to get them on a podcast, and it would be beneficial for the design community too. So that's the reason I started the podcast. It's on hold. Please don't go and say that the podcast has been dead for the past to the listeners. If you just go on any podcast streaming app and just search for The Bless Show, there are a few episodes up there. But yeah, it was fun when I did that.
So you will be bringing it back, you think?
Yes, absolutely.
Amazing. What was your experience? So I love that the idea was to learn from people, but did it have any side effects that you weren't expecting?
Absolutely, yes. And that's the reason I stopped. So I started it off with the intention of learning, but then it went on to the rabbit hole of content creation, rabbit hole of social media, content creation game, where I now wanted to be like other podcasters, where I wanted to just, get those short clips, cut it out from the long podcast session and then put it out on social media with the subtitles and all that stuff. Slowly, I just spent a lot of the time working on my content creation game than on the thing that I started with this thing with, right? So my mind was distracted from design to content creation. And because I love creating content, that's something that comes naturally to me. If you look at my Instagram, I have lots of reels there, talking head reels, where I like to create video content, stuff like that. I just went down in the rabbit hole, and the focus that I should have been given to design was now shifted to content creation. because I saw people doing stuff, saw people doing things, and I was like, yeah, I can do that. I should try that. And not knowing that they have a different game plan, right? They have a different focus, they have a different goal, which I figured out only later on. So that was something that I wasn't expecting. I didn't need that, but it's just how things work out, right?
So you put the podcast on hold because you felt like you were being distracted away from the actual work and the learning that goes with that work.
Yep, absolutely. I thought moving forward, I was looking to get on people, like people those who were more well known in the design industry, not necessarily people that I wanted to learn with, if that makes sense. I looked up people, those who were always showing up on my feed, those who were, going to different podcasts, and they were getting they had a great name on the industry or in the social media field. I wanted to get them, not necessarily I wanted to learn from them, kind of thing. So few episodes in, I figured out like this is not working how I wanted it to be, and I don't want to do it just for the sake of doing it. I wanted to do it if I really feel like I have a purpose behind it. So I just stopped it because for me, I'm a type of person where I give my everything if I'm doing something. So if I want to do podcast, I will spend my whole life working on that podcast. So I have heard people, those who do multiple projects at a time and they do really well at it. Personally, for me, it hasn't worked out well. Probably something that I should learn more about. But yeah, that's how things work out for me. So I just decided that I'll keep it aside for a moment. I'll keep it in hold for a moment until I figure out a strategy where it will be a great balance for me when it comes to content creation and design work.
Nice. Speaking of focus, I obviously introduced you as a logo and brand identity designer. And actually, you were onto logos right from the beginning, by the sounds of it. Have you meandered from that niche at all, or has it just served you well?
So it served me well for the past 4 years or so. And I was just doing logo design when I started out. Just logo design, nothing else. It was just logo design. So what my clients got was the logo files, supporting logos and all of that. Nothing else, right? But I didn't want it to just design logos because I liked the idea and I enjoyed the process of designing the brand assets like typography, colors, and how things would look like, and how you can make all of these together into this thing called branding or visual brand or visual identity. I wanted to do that. I learned that and I branched out to a little bit on the same segment, brand identity. So probably that's also the natural transition that people do from logos. You just move on to brand identity or visual identity. I'm at this point in my career where I'm also, learning more about web design and web development and things like that, and no-code tools and all of that stuff. So at this point, if you ask me, I'm a logo and brand identity designer, but I also do websites. I'm still a newbie on that, but I would also call that I design websites.
So is that if somebody comes to you and they're after the logo, are you exploring what they're actually needing and then going, oh, hello, do you need a website?
Yep. So logo design is something that is my forefront in my portfolios or in my social media. And when somebody comes, obviously they look at my portfolio or my portfolio website and they look at that and they come to me and they will be like, I would like to get a logo done. And then I probably educate them if they are not well aware about the whole brand identity system, on how things work out, what's the color palette, what's typography, what's brand style guide, what's brand guidelines and all that stuff, and why it would be helpful for them, and how a landing page, aligned with that would just work well for your business. And some agree to that, some obviously don't have the budget. So whatever it is, I have shared that I am available for such things. So in future, if they would like to, they would just reach out.
Hope you're enjoying this episode of Being Freelance. There's over 300 episodes, so make sure you subscribe, make sure you check out the others. And at beingfreelance.com, you'll find a course for new freelancers and, most importantly, the community. You're not alone. Being Freelance. Come join us. Right now, there, let's get back to Blesson's story. What have you found most challenging about being freelance?
Yeah, that's a great question, because I've had a lot of challenges, but I would cut the cliche challenges where it's about, getting clients and all that stuff. I would like to talk about something that's a bit more personal to me, because I think that will give more perspective to people probably who are on the same page, to listeners, those who are probably on the same page or have a similar situation where I have. So my, biggest challenge in freelancing or being freelance was the mindset shift that, I had to take, where I had to teach myself every bit of freelancing or the solopreneur journey of, being a solo guy for everything that you do. Because I didn't had, as I mentioned earlier in the episode, that I didn't had any exposure to good design culture or good design systems, or what do you mean by good design? What do you mean by a design, aesthetic and any of that, right? And coupling that with business knowledge, like marketing yourself or reaching out to clients or maintaining good relationships with your client, or how do you stay calm and conscious even when the client doesn't like your work, and how do you give good feedback, and how do you respond to the feedback that you get from your clients. So everything related to communications. So everything related to mindset shift. I had to shift the mindset from not just being an order taker, not just delivering what they want, but to shift the perspective from that to actually being a business owner and actually being someone who helps my clients more than anything, more than just, charging them, or more than just sending them the invoice and getting paid. More than that, how I should just be a partner for them, and how my main goal should be to make things easier for them at the end of the day. So that has been, I would say that has been the biggest challenge for me. And still, it works, because my friend circles or my, like classmates or college mates or colleagues, they don't have this sort of mindset going on, because that's not the general culture we have. So to always keep yourself on track with this, it's a great challenge. And but thankfully things are getting better. The mindset shift is happening in the society and the culture that we live in. So it's an added bonus. So I would say that has been my greatest challenge when, about being freelance. And obviously there are those general challenges of, finding clients or not having clients for a short period of time and freaking out on how you would do that and all that stuff, right?
Yeah, I found the same actually, getting in that business mindset. Are you someone who sets goals? Are you, do you look to the future and plan ahead, or do you just keep figuring out what you need to do next?
So I have been not at all on the range of setting goals. Like for me, I am a man of faith, and faith is something that my faith in Christ is something that has been the forefront of my business or who I am today, right? And what we have been taught and what I have learned over the years is that future is not in your hands, right? Things are not in your hands. You don't control the future. But at the same time, I am thankful and grateful for what I have every day, waking up every day. I'm grateful and thankful that I get to do what I love. And I just like to take things one day at a time. It doesn't mean that I don't have plans for what to do next, but it just means that I'm not worried. I'm not always focusing on that plan. I have that plan in my heart, on my mind, but it's not something that I always look up to and just, keep pushing for that. I'm not that kind of person. It has never worked out for me, because that's just how I am, and that's just things have worked out for me. So one day at a time, being grateful for what I have plans, but that's not the main goal, or that's not the main driving factor for me.
Nice. I saw a thing on I think it must have been on your website about how maybe I'm wrong, but you're starting a business with your brother as well. Was that right?
Yeah. So my brother is, seeing me work on design things and creative things, he was also on that creative aspect, right? So he saw me and he was like, yeah, this is the thing that works out, right? And
so he's younger brother?
Yeah, he's my younger brother. So he learned, so he got into logo animations and animation and motion design stuff, right? So he got into that, he learned that, and I have to say he's like really good at it. So darn good that I sometimes feel like, is he really my brother? Because like he does, because that's how it is, right? Right now he is pursuing his, like he went for further studies to Canada to learn motion design and things, and he's literally legit doing that. So moving forward, my goal is to just have an agency set up or a studio set up where we do everything from branding to motion design and 3D video production stuff and things like that. So obviously that is not happening right now, but something that is in plan. As I mentioned, I have plans, but I just take them one day at a time.
Nice. That's a nice idea. And that's separate from your business.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's separate from my business. That would be more on. So I do have an Instagram page for that. I announced that. So it's called Point 7 Design Studio. That's what it's called. It's there, but it's not really in the existence of how things work out as agencies.
Nice. Blesson, I always do this thing where I ask you to tell me 3 facts about yourself, make 2 true, 1 a lie, and let me figure out the lie. What do you have for me?
Great. Wonderful. I'm really excited about this one because I'm not sure how this will work out, but let's go. So 3 facts about me. First one being I love traveling, and I've been to 13 countries in the last 3 years, which has been a great experience, right? So I'm preparing for the 14th next month, which I'll be doing very soon. So that's the first fact. Second would be I'm also a guitarist. I have been a worship leader in my church for the past decade or so. That's the second fact. And third being my city where I live in has no fast food restaurants. So literally none of the prominent ones or the ones that are known in the world for fast food industry, I don't have them in my city.
Well, I don't. Okay, 13 countries in the past 3 years. You picked the past 3 years when, for part of that, COVID was happening, and it was really hard to travel anywhere. So to get to 13 or 14 is good. So where have you headed?
Yeah, I've been mostly so first I started out with Asian countries. So these were like, Indonesia, because I like Bali a lot. So Indonesia, Malaysia, Singapore, all of those regions. I wanted to go to, China, but I couldn't because I love a few things about China and the Chinese culture and things like that. Then I just moved on to, European countries and, US, Canada and things like that, all those areas. The recent ones were Middle East. So I have been to probably every Middle East country that we have in list.
I don't know.
Let's go.
Although here's the thing is, of course, if you were going to go from India to Europe, you probably would like travel around and go to all of know, it's a bit like I've been on one of those bus tours. This was years ago, admittedly, when you went through, and actually you probably went to about 10 countries in a matter of a couple of weeks.
It has been like that. So it's not like I traveled. I didn't say I have explored 13 countries. I just said I've been traveling. I love traveling. I've been to 13 countries, right?
I reckon that might well be true then. So you're a guitarist, excellent. But no fast food. So does that mean you hadn't tasted, be it a McDonald's or a KFC or
No.
a pizza.
Obviously, I've been to
or-
13 countries, Steve, so I would have.
Right.
considered-
Yeah. No. But at some until you went traveling,
Yep.
there was a lot. How old were you when you had your first experience of that type of
Yeah.
food?
So I was in my college first year. That's when I tasted the first Domino's. So my first fast food touch point was Domino's pizza. And it just blew my mind that this is something like this, always here, like people eat this thing, right?
In a good way, or
No, it was obviously in a good way. Come on. It was in a good way. And I was like, wow. I mean, like, this thing exists. And then I ate KFC and I was like, wow, this like, because Indian food is a whole lot different than, how American or British foods are. I mean, we have like tons of spices and tons of flavors and just exploding in your mouth, right? So it was quite different for me. So it was really a great experience, I would say. But yeah, up until college, I never had any exposure to KFC or Domino's or things like that.
oh man, I don't know.
Let's go. I think I made it hard for you. I like that.
Guitarist. I mean, why would you make up? Unless, of course, you've never played the guitar in your life.
Mm-hmm.
But I know you're a creative person. Why not have played the guitar?
Yeah, that's great.
In which case, maybe the fast food is the lie. Maybe you grew up in a house that was next door to a McDonald's. maybe your dad managed a McDonald's. This is the foundation of yeah. Oh, it felt so true. But I reckon the fast food one is the lie.
Mm-hmm. Shall we lock it?
Yep.
All right. You're wrong. The lie is that I have never traveled to 13 countries. I have never been to
Unbelievable. You've never been around Europe.
Listen to
have you,
me.
on a bus?
Here's the funny part. Right? Here's the funny part. I have never been to an international country up until now.
That is an excellent lie. I should have asked you what was your favourite country or something like that.
You should have asked me destinations. Like, what do you like about that?
I did. You were rattling them off. You were like, yeah, I went to Singapore, Indonesia, then I went around Europe.
Yeah, I think my geography lessons helped me on that.
And,
So-
I should have thought it would have been very expensive, but you'd obviously upped
yep.
your rates from $80. So,
But,
Oh, well
but truth
done,
being
you
told,
two.
truth being told, I really want to travel. And one thing that I regret not doing much is traveling.
so where are you off to then? Where's this first country that you're going to?
I don't know.
Oh, I thought you said you were going soon.
Yeah, that was also a lie.
Of course it is.
Love it.
Speaking of obviously not travelling overseas and stuff,
Yep.
though, in terms of work-life balance, how has that changed over there? What are we now at, like 7 years or so of being freelance?
Yeah, 7 years.
How have you found that over the years?
Yeah, it has been a great struggle to me, to be very honest, because I think one thing that I kept always sticking to was weekends off, which was a must for me. I wanted to take as much rest as possible. I'm someone who believes you need as much rest as you do work, right? So for me, I can't just keep hustling day in and day and night and just expect things to just work out well. For me, I like to take things slow. I like to rest as much possible. So for me, weekends has been something where I spend most of my time on meditation and theology, which helps me unwind as well. At the same time, build my faith journey. Also, it helps me spend more time with my family and give more preference to the family time when it comes to weekends. But at the same time, it has been a real struggle. I still struggle a lot to have a great work-life balance because also I am now a new dad. So things have just, like been upside down and everything when it comes to, your schedules, your sleeping routines, everything is just now messed up. So I am at this point where I'm yet to figure out a great work-life balance. But it's not like it's a messed up situation, but I would also say that I have a lot to improve on that.
Yeah. Maybe in 18 years it'll settle down again.
Yeah, exactly.
But how do you manage your workload to try, okay, so it doesn't always work out, but to try and prioritize rest if it's so important to you?
I'm fortunate enough to not go beyond high number of clients, but actually have some good high quality clients in numbers, like less in number and more in the type of clients that I have. So, which helps me not take too many projects at one time, which helps me to like allocate set number of hours or days to a certain project and not just go totally bonkers on every project that I have. So that's something that works out for me. And I also like organizations, and I also like, having set my to-dos beforehand, set my tasks beforehand or events beforehand. So those are the things that has helped me have, a decent workload balance.
Yeah. Does that mean, say, turning projects away that actually you might want to take on?
So there have been instances, yes, but I wouldn't call them a big percentage of my inquiries. But I would have had, I've had instances where I wanted to work on them, but because of the workload, probably I have referred it to someone else, maybe my friends or someone that I know. But that hasn't happened much, I would say.
And how do you filter the ones that you do want to do from those others?
Yeah, that's interesting. I would say there are a few red flags that I have learned over these years. One of them being they don't value design as much they should, because that means they just give you orders and they're like, hey, we want so and so logo, we want so and so branding done, we have everything sketched out, we have all the details, we have all the type of logos that we want, and this is what we need you to do that, or we need you to design it. That means they're just here to give orders and get the thing designed from me because they couldn't design it themselves, and just get the stuff done. I don't like to work on those projects. But I like to work on the projects where I'm equally involved, and I like to work with them and not just for them. So that's something that I have had the biggest red flag that I have. And also, if they're really hesitant about your decisions, they're suspicious about your choices as a designer, like, hey, do you really think that this will work? Do you really think that will work? I have doubts. I have, I'm very suspicious about whether or not this concept would work and all that stuff. If that's how things are with them, I just generally tend to stay away from those clients.
Blesson, if you could tell your younger self one thing about being freelance, what would that be?
Absolutely, one thing that I would tell my younger self, because as I mentioned, I have few regrets when it comes to starting work, when I started work. One thing is give equal importance to, networking as much as you do to master your craft. So I was busy so much in, mastering my craft and just learning just design skills that I forgot to network with people that might be potential clients, or that might be potential people that will bring me more leads, and people that I can learn from more, people that I can look up to and just, learn things from their design journey or career. So networking is something that was my weak point, and it still is, I would say, and I'm trying my best to be good at it and reach out to people and network with people, connect with people, those who can help me get better at not just design, but, design as a business or design as a career.
Interesting, yeah. Because I guess, we think of networking, but you were very much watching people
Yeah.
online, your silent mentors, as you called them.
Yep.
When actually, you wish you'd maybe reached out or taken part more in things.
Exactly. That builds more of that personal relationship, right? Which is more human, which is more, I think, beneficial, and it is what brings out the best in you when you reach out to the people that help get the best in you out.
Blesson, it's been so good to talk to you. Go to beingfreelance.com. There'll be links through so that you can find Blesson online and what he's up to, both now. Maybe you're listening to this in the future and you can go and find out. Maybe he restarted that podcast. Maybe him and his brother have taken over the world. Who knows? Maybe he's managed to get some sleep. You can find out. Go to beingfreelance.com. And of course, we have the Being Freelance community as well. So while you're there, click that button and I'll see you in there. But for now, Blesson, thank you so much and all the best being freelance.
Thank you very much, Steve. It has been a great fun and a great experience being here. Thank you very much for having me, and all the best to everybody who's listening. Get the best of it possible.